Hello, my name's Chris, what's yours? Welcome back to Marathon Man, where I'm going through Doctor Who from the very beginning, and you join me as we recap Season 8. It may be half the length, but it felt like it took me as long, if not longer, to get through Season 8 as it did to get through some of the longer early seasons of Doctor Who. And I think part of this is because I was really downhearted by the opening 1-2 of this season, and that came after having been knocked out by how good Pertwee's debut season was. So the disappointment felt more pronounced. Season 7 felt fresh and exciting and actually quite thrilling in its unapologetic forging forward into something new for the show, and it culminated in the best story of the marathon so far. Then we had Terror of the Autons, which felt a bit wrong despite some truly brilliant elements at play, followed by The Mind of Evil, which was clearly a solid story with a lot of potential, but which had one gigantic drawback for me, in that I didn't really like the Doctor in it. A relief then when I reached Claws of Axos, and it was exactly the snappy, robust tale I felt the season needed at that point. An all-time classic? No. A pinnacle of Doctor Who? No. But a lifeline which perked me up no end, leading into a really enjoyable first for the Third Doctor, a trip off-world like Days Gone By. Colony in Space, like the Claws of Axos, may not be an out-and-out perler, but what it is, in my opinion, is a very well put together story taking a slightly skewed view on your average spacefaring sci-fi serial. And then we end Season 8 with a really nice gift, The Demons. Once upon a time, one of my least favourite stories, I now see it for the wonderful one it actually is. As it happens though, it doesn't quite make it into my top 10 at this point, so therefore the top 10 remains unchanged from my Season 7 recap video. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but this is the state of play at the moment. The Savage is number 10, Doctor Who and the Silurians number 9, The Mythmakers at 8, Marco Polo at 7, The Aztecs at 6, The Mind Robber at 5, The Time Meddler at 4, The Massacre at 3, The War Games at 2, and Inferno at number 1. A season which built from less than stellar beginnings gradually into excellence, and at the centre of it all was Jon Pertwee. He always surprises me in Season 7 by being utterly fantastic, because historically I don't think I remember him immensely fondly. And then come Season 8, he starts to offer glimpses as to why that might be. Don't get me wrong, I still think he's good, right? I love Doctor Who, I don't think there are any bad Doctors. However, there are cracks in the veneer in Season 8, and when they start to show, they do disappoint me. He was the biggest reason I couldn't get on with The Mind of Evil, I'm afraid, and these little glimpses, despite absolutely being few and far between, nonetheless colour my perception of his Doctor. For all of the standing up for the little guy and railing against petty-minded bullies, there are some distinctly nasty moments, which, now that there have been a few, almost serve to make me suspect that the nicer bits are a front. I know they're not. He's the Doctor after all. But that only makes me disapprove of some of Pertwee's and the writer's choices for him in Season 8. And like I said in my video of The Demons, I'm keeping my eye on him. Odd then that I find the new villain introduced in this season far more entertaining. Roger Delgado coming aboard was a shake-up when many other things looked like they were settling. Pertwee certainly seems too comfortable at times, but when he's opposite Delgado, who just brings with him an energy and poise that is so remarkable, then he's forced to pull his finger out. And when he does do that, the two of them together are exquisite, forming and suggesting a relationship between hero and villain far more complex and interesting than would be usual. Fantastic stuff. So, what does the top 10 companions list look like at this point now that we've met a new one? Number 10. Jo Grant. With Liz bundled off out the back, which is a shame, in comes Jo, which is not a shame. While Katie Manning is a lovely presence from the off, her character finishes her first season still more potential than realisation. Manning isn't matching the material she's given, she's greatly surpassing it, and perhaps far more than any other performer in Doctor Who this far in. That Jo doesn't feel trite and flimsy is, I believe, solely down to Manning. She is exemplary in what is, for now, a fairly slim role. There are some rays of sunshine, like her friendship with Barnum and her willingness to lay down her life to save the Doctor are all robust bits of business for Katie Manning to get her teeth into, and she excels at them. She manages to surpass that material as well. Now, the thing is, obviously Jo is going to be sticking around, so this is very likely not going to be her final placing in the companions list. It's just that this is where I think I would put her on the evidence of Season 8 and Season 8 alone. Now, as Jo is the only valid new entry, and we've already got her out of the way at number 10, that means that the top 9 companions, is the same as it was from Season 7. So, to avoid repeating myself at length again, here's the top 10 companions at this point. Number 10, Jo Grant. Number 9, Ian Chesterton. Number 8, Ben Jackson. Number 7, Victoria Waterfield. Number 6, Liz Shaw. 5, Stephen Taylor. Number 4, Vicky Pallister. Number 3, Jamie McCrimmon. Number 2, Zoe Herriot. And at number 1, it's still Barbara Wright. So with the top 10 stories and the top 10 companions largely remaining pretty static from the last time, this brief pause between Seasons 8 and Season 9 is probably going to be a lot briefer than the pauses between seasons previously. So what I thought I would do is a new list. How each of the seasons stack up against each other at this point. Having been rating each story out of 5 up until this point, I took an average and then got a percentage for each season. With this marathon shaking up a lot of my long-held beliefs about Doctor Who, some stories being far better than I previously thought, and some stories being worse than I previously thought, it's affected how I view each of the seasons as well. So that's thrown up some surprises. So my top 8 seasons of Doctor Who at the end of Season 8 are as follows. Number 8, Season 4. See, I would have sworn blind it would have been Season 8 at this point. But whether or not that's down to Colony in Space and the Demons being so enjoyable, or the shortness of that season compared to earlier ones, or maybe a combination of the two factors, I don't really know. But there we go. The season with the very first regeneration turns out to be my least favourite season so far, with a score of 71%. Number 7, Season 6. Still not Season 8, and also with a score of 71%. Season 6 edges Season 4 for me by dint of having the Mind Robber and the War Games in its number. I still find it shockingly low though, and with one Troughton season still to come, and that one being historically my least favourite. But then the numbers do not lie, and this is what I mean about being surprised by this list. I even liked the Invasion more this time around, but the Dominators and the Space Pirates, along with a slight fall for the Crotons, must have brought this one down considerably. Number 6, Season 8. Here it is, the most recent one. Now this one really is a mixed bag for me, starting fairly lacklustre but really hitting its stride past the midpoint, where the stories just kept getting better and better. Now with Colony and Demons being as strong as they are in a season with only 5 stories as opposed to say 7, 8 or 9, then this season probably gets to bask in their glory a bit, with a score of 72%. Number 5, Season 5. 5 at 5. And the one I always counted as my least favourite Second Doctor season. Formulaic and repetitive was how I used to find this one, but seeing the merits of Fury from the Deep more clearly, and the Wheel in Space not making me want to pour concrete into my eyes for the first time ever, has seen this one jump up, earning a score of 74%. Number 4, Season 2. Season 2 may be more consistent than Season 3, but they both get a score of 76%, and so I was forced to choose between them. Season 3 just has a bit more of a rebellious streak, I think, and this does have some excellent stories, but I find it coloured slightly by the Web Planet and The Chase. Number 3, Season 3. 3 at 3. And okay, so it has my least favourite story so far, The Celestial Toymaker, but it contains the real, genuine highlights. The Massacre, the Mythmakers, the Savages, coming along as possibly the greatest surprise on the marathon so far. And they all elevate this one, for me, above Season 2, ever so slightly. Number 2, Season 1. The original, and what a way to kick off the show. Its first year is such a statement of intent and carries with it some novelty factor of not quite yet being the show we are super familiar with. It therefore has a kind of skewed quality, and the stories feel a bit more ethereal. With classics that are still bothering the top 10, like The Aztecs and Marco Polo, no wonder it scored as high as 83%. Number 1. Season 7. Never consider myself a Pertwee fan, never consider myself a Pertwee era fan, but here we are. With a whopping 90%, it's by far and away my favourite season of the marathon so far. How it navigated such a shift in the show's shape is extraordinary and contains the best story on the marathon so far, Inferno. Now, okay, it's only 4 stories, but on an individual episode basis, this run of episodes is just so incredibly strong that it's almost as if it didn't have a daunting task like ushering in a new Doctor, new companion, and new format all at once. But it did have those things. It's worth pointing out that 71%, the lowest scoring season so far, is still pretty good going. 71% is still quite high, and if the season I like the least scores 71%, then that only goes to show how much I love Doctor Who as a whole. And yet, if I'm comparing it to itself, if I'm comparing Doctor Who to Doctor Who, and if it comes across unfavourable sometimes, then it is rarely because I genuinely dislike it. It's usually because I prefer other bits of it. Because this is my favourite show and I am loving making this journey again. And with that, I bid adieu to Season 8. And with 2 feet now firmly in Pertwee's era, I move on to Season 9 with excitement and trepidation. You see, I let myself get carried away by how much I enjoyed Inferno. So I'm reluctant to do the same again after how much I enjoyed The Demons this time. What if Season 9 can't quite live up to it? As ever, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this pause before Pertwee's middle season, then you know how YouTube works. Please do give it a like and share it around. I'd be super grateful. And what do you think of Season 8? Is it a highlight of Pertwee's era, or is it one of his lesser years? Is the Master one of the greatest additions to Doctor Who, or did he crop up a bit too much? Or both? And what does your list of favourite seasons look like compared to mine? Are we largely in agreement, or does my list cause you to have palpitations? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you back here soon for the long-awaited return of an old enemy. So, if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button, clang the cloister bell, and I'll meet you at Alderley House.